All right, excited to, I guess, show you the new version of the Downwind Aviator. It's something that Marcus and I have been working on a lot. To be honest, like almost the last 6 years, it's been a project of ours, always trying to make it better and better. There's definitely been some new innovation that's, lended itself to, a few tweaks. And we're really happy with the boards we've got here over in Maui for the races that are coming up and about to be run. So the biggest changes are probably the bottom shape, the volume distribution, the length.
So I guess starting with the bottom shape, the nose is a lot rounder than it used to be. It has no hard edge on the chine, and it just allows the board to change direction mid paddle up if you need to, which is pretty common.
Especially on the race lines over here.
Yeah, so it doesn't kind of lock it in to just paddling up. You don't get locked into that straight line. We've kept the kind of almost signature concave chine down through the middle, which we find kind of allows it to track enough, like without it being too squirmish. So we did a lot of prototypes with chines going right down the middle, quite hard edges, and as the boards have gotten longer and skinnier, they just went too straight. So we ditched that at the nose, and it's gone into more of a displacement round nose with kind of a flatter, but not flat. It's basically got a little bit of V in that flat middle section, and then with the concave chines through the middle. And then the tail kick, we've always had tail kick, and we've stuck with that pretty much from the back of the boxes. It starts to kick, and the chines come right in, and that's just basically like when you're paddling up, your tail doesn't grab and kind of stall, like slow you down.
But the other advantage of the flat section in front of the box, stability. Stability is huge for downwinding. We're normally downwinding in messy conditions, or windy conditions where there's chop. The chops are what we want to surf, but when we're trying to paddle up, I see it time and time again whenever I'm coaching, people go boards that are too tippy for them, too skinny for them, and they can't balance. This shape is more stable than a full displacement round bottom shape.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's super important, Yeah. One thing that's worth mentioning is with the carbon rails, if you're new to paddling, it's definitely a good idea to rail tape it, because with the black rail and the carbon and then the resin over the top, like the scuff marks are going to look worse on this rail than they are on this rail, because this rail's they sort of did like this sort of rough paint job so that if you did scuff the rail, you wouldn't notice it, whereas this black, which I think looks really nice, is going to show up your scuff marks. So rail tape is definitely a good idea if you're new to paddling and you're a bit of a rail hacker. If you're experienced, you probably don't need it at all. Yeah. So the other thing that's changed from last year's range is the volume and the distribution of the volume. So we've lowered the volume a bit. What we found is with the hard edges, especially on the old board, that it was almost too corky for some people. They were going too much volume, and too much volume is just as bad as too little volume. You wouldn't think so, because in flat water it doesn't matter, but as soon as you get in the bumps, you're feeling every bit of chop. Basically, it's like a cork in the ocean, feeling everything. The volume that we've found that works for our boards at least is your body weight standing on the board. So if you're wearing a wetsuit and a life jacket, that's probably going to add a bit more weight. If you're doing a long crossing, you've got water in your pack, you're going to want a little bit higher volume. But your body weight standing on the board times 1.3 if you're more intermediate to advanced, and 1.4 if you're more intermediate to beginner. So if I'm 100 kilos, I'm looking at a 140 litre board if I'm a beginner. If I'm 100 kilos, I'm looking at a 130 litre board if I'm more of an intermediate to advanced rider. And that's just a ballpark, but that's kind of what we've designed these boards on for the volume distribution. You can also order customs. So if you don't want the long box, or you don't have the perfect dimensions, or you don't want a slightly different bottom shape, Marcus does custom through Sunova, so you can order a custom, chat to Marcus, and you can discuss the little tweaks and minor changes you want. We don't have too many boards that are over like 140, 35, 135 litres, about as big as they go. And then there's the bulk of the options that are between sort of 95 to 130 litres, give or take, because that's where we see the majority of the population of downwind foilers' weight being. In saying that, we haven't ignored the really heavy guys or the really light guys. We do have boards that are I think as low as like in around the 80s and as high as, like I said, for around 150s. But the majority of foilers have been asking us for boards that are long, skinny, and not too high in volume. So we've answered that call.
Yeah, complete rejig of our range sizes compared to the previous one, and yeah, completely new board. It'll look totally different to the previous one. So yeah, we're excited to release it.
Yeah, exciting times.